entrepreneur, the family businesses to help the next generation to become a successful entrepreneur. The courses are made accordingly and gives an entrepreneur a cutting edge in learning about the latest in the entrepreneurship, the strategy, the tenacity they need to build up. So the whole webinar is a kind of a symbol that they would try to bring to the entire the business community in India. What an entrepreneurship, why an entrepreneurship is a must, and why people should be looking at entrepreneurship course and how to become a successful entrepreneur. In today's webinar, we have 5 eminent speakers who are going to talk on the subject, the future of Indian entrepreneurship. So we all have seen the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the scenario, how it's being changed. 20 years, 25 years back, if you look at the entire system here, everyone wants to get a job. The first thinking was to secure a job. I mean, that was how even the parents forced the children to look for a government job or a bank job or something which can pay them handsomely and can help their life go on. So in the 90s, early 90s, this entire system was changed. There was a kind of a entrepreneurial spirit which has come to this country. A lot of our software engineers who have been traveled abroad, they saw what is happening in the Western countries. The country also opened up, and the spirit of entrepreneurship started building up in India. So, an institute like EDII Ahmedabad has been taken a lead in building the entrepreneurs in the country. So, welcome everyone, and thank you EDII for this opportunity to address the aspiring entrepreneurs in the country, and also the MSMEs to learn about why the next generation should look at entrepreneurship and become a successful entrepreneur. I will quickly, give an introduction to EDII and what EDII is for those who are not aware of the EDII Ahmedabad. EDII is an acknowledged national resource institute for entrepreneurship education, research, training, and training. Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India is an autonomous and non-profit institute set up in 1983 and is sponsored by Apex Financial institutions like the IDBI, IFCI, ICICI Bank Limited, and the State Bank of India. The government of Gujarat has pledged 23 acres of land on which stands the majestic and the sprawling EDII campus. To pursue its mission, EDII has helped set up 12 state-level exclusive entrepreneurship development centers and institutes. One of the satisfying achievements, however, was taking entrepreneurship to a large number of schools, colleges, and science and technology institutions, management schools in several states by including entrepreneurship inputs in their curricula. In order to broaden the frontiers of entrepreneurship research, EDII has established a Center for Research and Entrepreneurship Education and Development called CREED to investigate into a range of issues surrounding small and medium enterprise sector and establish a network of researchers and trainers by conducting a biennial seminar on entrepreneurship education and research. So here's all about EDII. Is one of the leading entrepreneurship institutes in India. And let me quickly introduce the agenda for today and introduce the speakers and what we are going to learn today and what we are going to listen to them. So give me a minute. Let me open the agenda, the PPT today. So there were 5 speakers, and I think last time we had about 4 speakers, and today we have 5 speakers. That might take a bit more time, but it's going to be a very interesting session that you're going to listen. So please wait till the last session, and we definitely have some Q&As towards the end. Whatever you would like to ask, whatever questions you have based on the presentation today, please feel free to either put your questions in the chat box or raise your hand. So just want to quickly go to the rules of the house. There is a raise hand icon onto your right hand top where you can see, and if you want to ask a question, please click on that and raise your hand. And if you're not able to raise a hand, please chat, put your questions in the chat box and we can read it out and we will get the answers right. So let me introduce this. Hope you can see this.
Yeah, visible.
So today's session is going to be on future of Indian entrepreneurship. It's basically one dream that's been taken to the next level. So thank you once again for everyone joining this, and thank you EDII for giving this opportunity, wonderful opportunity for the audience to listen about the entrepreneurship and what are the benefits it can bring to one and everyone. So quickly introducing the speakers for today's session. Mr. SP Dangesh, he's a founder of Innovative Thought Forum. He's going to give you the first keynote session, followed by Professor Satyaranjan, and Mr. Pawan. Satyaranjan is the director of CIDIL. I'll introduce everyone in detail later. Mr. Pawan Kumar, founder of 3PM Ventures. Mr. Dividend is an entrepreneurship evangelist, and Mr. Priyadeep Sinha is a vice president Game India. So I'll take you through the session today. What's going to happen? So quickly, I'll just share today's program. So let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. SP Dangesh, who's going to key the keynote speech today. He's a founder, trustee, Innovative Thought Forum. Mr. SP Dangesh is a distinguished alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad with India-centric mindset and focus on social, economic, and technological spheres. He's a passionate proponent of green, clean, and sustainable development. Mr. Dangesh has devoted all his focus, efforts, and expertise to evolve products and solutions in domains of water, wastewater, affordable housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy, waste management, and health. Role model for entrepreneurs. Some of his noteworthy milestones are a regular speaker at many symposia, seminars, and conferences relating to plastics, environment, affordable housing, homeopathy, renewable energy, waste management, etc. He's an ex-chairman of National Advisory Board of Plast India Foundation. He has created and delivered a course on waste management at IIM Ahmedabad and on doing business with government and PSUs at EDII Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad. He is an independent director on board of GMDC and GIPL. He is also recognized as distinguished alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad during its Golden Jubilee celebration on 11th December 2011. So while keynote speech, Mr. Dangesh will be talking on entrepreneurship opportunities in India post-COVID. So let's welcome Mr. Dangesh. So welcome and over to you. Your mic is on mute. Mr. Dangesh, your mic is on mute. Can you unmute your mic? Mr. Dangesh, are you available there? Okay, I think is not been reachable. I would like to introduce Professor Satya as a next speaker. Probably he is getting engaged with a call and not able to reach him. I'm sorry about this. So I will quickly introduce Professor Satya, and let me introduce him. Professor Satyan Ranjan Acharya. Wait a minute. Yeah. So, Professor Satyan Ranjan Acharya is the director at Cradle. It's a technology incubator at EDII Ahmedabad. He's a business management graduate with 20 years of experience in academics and research, trained in entrepreneurship teaching by Stanford Technology Venture Program and in application of simulation for entrepreneurship teaching at the University of Tennessee, USA. Actively involved in incubation-related research and startup promotion activities in academic setup. So the topic that Professor Satya is going to talk about today is how EDII Ahmedabad contributes to the Indian entrepreneurship. So let's welcome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Tujo, to organize this and try to promote that how entrepreneurship is very relevant in current time period. I believe entrepreneurship is a way of life. It is not just about the monetary success that whether I'm getting success or failure. It is about pioneering and persistent spirit that nurture a sense of responsibility to the society and that doesn't settle for willful mediocrity. What I believe that a lot of us have just accepted what is called normal. What I mean by normal means normal is that you are going to class, you are going to score some amount of percentage, want to do that, and everybody will believe that you are normal. And if you are deviating from that normal behavior, we says that why are you abnormal, not deviating, not doing as per the norms or as per the things, and that's why we have forced everybody.
Now it is unmuted. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sir, you can. So I think.
Sorry. Mr. Dangaj, I think there was a loss of time, so we are starting with Professor Satya, and after that, we'll invite you.
I think I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes and then we can start with Mr. Dangaj and can get back. I think that will be better so that we can relate to each other what we're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, fine.
So I think I was just starting up talking about entrepreneurship as a way of life. It is just about not accepting what is called average or normal, but always accepting which is beyond normal, beyond average, and try to look for beyond what is called mediocrity. It's all about not about just trying out your passion, but creating problem solving as your passion. We'll talk a lot about the problem solving attitude of this whole process. And third, I want to talk about that how entrepreneurship can be created as an insurance against uncertainty. So there is a lot of uncertainty across the world right now, whether I'll be in job tomorrow, what will happen to my sales, how entrepreneurship as a spirit is going to create a complete insurance against any type of deviation what is taking place. And this is the reason, the fourth thing that I want to talk about, whether the entrepreneurship can be taught or not. Is it something that we can train people on entrepreneurship? Is it something inside, is a born thing that somebody can be entrepreneur, somebody cannot be an entrepreneur? So we at EDI, I think we have given a background that EDI was started up in 1983 as an autonomous institute promoted by developmental banks like IDBI, IFCI and ICICI and State Bank of India with a firm belief that we can train people on entrepreneurship, and that's the way we are operating for last more than 30 years. Created an EDB model called entrepreneurship development models, and then we started enter into the long-term programs. We initiated a one-year program back in 1998 to promote entrepreneurship. And from 2008 onwards, we started offering a 2 years full-time program on entrepreneurship. So currently, we are offering full-time courses on entrepreneurship. We are offering online programs on entrepreneurship. We are also doing a bit of a research or the fellow program that's called a doctorate level program on entrepreneurship. And we initiated this AICT program. Today, we have more than 22nd batches currently continuing. More than 1,500 odd students have passed out with a firm belief that we can create entrepreneurs. And more than 70 to 80 odd percentage of our students, they started their own venture or contributing back to their family business in various sector. We have a incubation center called Cradle where we try to link to the students who just come with an idea. So for me, entrepreneurship is about identifying opportunity, find out what the best thing that can happen, and then we can support them, handle them, and mentor them so that they can reach the whole goal. That this is the journey that I want to do, and that learning, that's a program and other education program that you offer to provide that learning to the student so that he can do that activity of identifying opportunity and always keep on looking for better solutions. So I'll get back and talk about some of our students and what is the type of an ideas on which you work. But beyond that, I request Dangat Sahib to continue to talk about what are the different opportunities. So entrepreneurship is all about identifying opportunities and working on that. So let's listen to Dangat Sahib and try to get back again. Yes, sir. Dangat Sahib is available.
Yep. Mr. Dangesh, you can continue. We have given an introduction about you and the topic, so please go ahead.
Yes. Very good evening to everybody. Mr. Dojo, Dr. Acharya, and all my fellow panelists. It's really my delight to be here with you today to share my thoughts on a subject which is very close to my heart. We have all been knowing that entrepreneurship has been integral to India for a very long time. It's not that entrepreneurs were not there in India and entrepreneurship was not there. But as you will recall, in the 60s, management institutes came up, and the first management institute called IIM Ahmedabad or IIM Calcutta, the two of them were set up more than 50 years ago. But it was felt that the management institutes were not really in a position to produce entrepreneurs. There was again a debate whether entrepreneurs can be created or entrepreneurs are born. And I would say that it was to the vision of the first director of EDII, Dr. V.G. Patel, who convinced the government of India, government of Gujarat, and many of the leading financial institutions at that time that entrepreneurship can be taught and entrepreneurship can be created. And that is how, as Dr. Acharya said, way back in 1983-84, EDII was set up. As you all know very well, management institutes even today may be talking about creating entrepreneurs, instilling interest and confidence in the management graduates, but looking at the overall opportunities and the kinds of risks that go with entrepreneurship, most of the MBAs that are coming out of institutes like IIMA, Calcutta, Bangalore, etc., prefer to go for jobs which are always waiting for them from leading corporates here or leading corporates outside of India. Well, in the 90s, as Mr. Dojo said, as Mr. Joe said, it was indeed a very exciting time. We were having challenges, but at the same time, entrepreneurship had started evolving, venture capital had started evolving in Silicon Valley and many other parts of the world. And therefore, many bright minds thought that entrepreneurship is going to be also a very lucrative way to go about. So many experienced people went on to do entrepreneurship in the tech areas. Well, Government of India was very much up to date and therefore thought that by involving higher learning institutes and making the academicians, students, researchers all a part of a group, entrepreneurship can be promoted in a big way. And we are all very well aware that Department of Science and Technology was the first one to be entrusted with this task, and it did a good job of creating interest in many of the higher learning institutes. After the installation of the new government, I guess startup got a further fillip, and we now are seeing a whole lot of I would say incubation centers, handholding centers, angel funds, venture capitals, private equity funds. All of them are there in India operating in different spaces. And there is a lot of, I would say, excitement about entrepreneurship per se in India. It's indeed a very heartening thing to see that people have started looking from across the country at various entrepreneurial opportunities that are there, and then there is no dearth of such organizations that I talked to you about, and availability of money for the right type of ideas, that this is something which is indeed, very, very interesting, a domain, very interesting, a career to choose. COVID-19 that has come has indeed shown that it's a period of creative destruction. As we know in our philosophy, in our Sanatan or Hindu philosophy, the presence of Trinity is always immanent and it is always there with us. So you have got Brahma to create and you got Vishnu to sustain or manage, and then you have got Lord Shiva to come and destroy whatever is not needed and also permit and also create a favorable ground for a new creation. So I would say COVID-19 is a watershed and it is like a period of creative destruction. What exactly have we learned from it? Without obviously expanding on it, I would like to summarize it in 3 or 4 ways that I am noticing the change in the mindset, change in the thinking, change in the philosophy of the people. Money is very difficult to come by, so I personally think that everybody is trying to see how can we manage with less money. Energy that we used to earlier expend on is not going to be the same, and everywhere we are going to look at energy efficiency. Likewise, resource efficiency. So I would say the entire gamut of efficiency in different kinds of resources, finances, energy, water is going to possibly stay with us after COVID is over. Second thing that we are noticing is that we are able to do quite a few things online. We are able to do many of the activities sitting at home or sitting in a small group. For example, we are today able to talk to each other across the world sitting at home. This kind of a thing possibly was not there, or if it was there, it was not put in a kind of a cogent and a coherent manner the way it is being put now. So we are going to obviously find that there will be a reorientation of all the processes that we are possibly used to doing. The third thing that is going to be very important is that in the financial world, we are going to see many changes. Today we read about several companies, app-based companies, that have got money invested by large Chinese corporations or Chinese government. And obviously this is raising the question about the global shifting and you can say exchange of money that is happening through the current financial architecture. So this is going to raise many questions about offshore banking, about the kind of shadow banking, the kind of money that travels in a manner that nobody can detect the source or the ownership of. So this is the third thing that is likely to happen. So with all these kinds of changes that we have seen during the COVID, is going to create all kinds of new opportunities for entrepreneurship. So when I look at the fields, I find 5 or 6 to be very vital. Health, in my opinion, is going to be the first, wherein we will be having blended solutions. We are seeing very clearly that the conventional or mainstream allopathic medicines are also without any solutions, without any drugs. And this is something which is going to compel all of us to visualize the scope of Ayush. There are gaps in the knowledge, there are gaps in the research, and there are gaps in the kind of delivery systems. But as we go forward, such challenges are going to become very big entrepreneurial opportunities. Since last week or so, we are noticing that Patanjali's solution is coming under tremendous amount of controversy and criticism. By branding it is unscientific, there is a big lobby which is trying to ensure that such Ayurvedic solutions, which have been a part and parcel of our ethos and our living for a very, very long time, are not permitted. Whereas many allopathic medicines which have not gone through any clinical trial process, including HCQ, remdesivir, or we talk about azithromycin. These have been accepted as the right method of treatment. So in healthcare field, we will be seeing a blend of promotive and preventive along with the curative. Ayush and allopathy, or we may say immunity, proper food, nutrition, along with proper allopathic treatment as well as post operative care should be throwing up a whole lot of opportunities in the time to come. Telemedicine could be, for example, another one which can be very good. Second field that is going to become very big is the delivery of knowledge or education or skilling in the country. Campus-based education that we are today used to will have to give way to a blending of online, distance, as well as other modes of knowledge delivery along with the campus. Third field that we will be seeing throwing up big opportunities in India, largely due to a very big agricultural and rural base, coupled with the kind of manpower that will be easily available in the rural or decentralized areas. I personally think that the kind of processing levels that we have got in agricultural produce are requiring a big fillip. Today we have almost 10 to 15% processing. If that goes up to 50%, imagine the kind of a scope that will be there. There will be many opportunities for decentralized units in villages, in remote areas, which will throw up opportunities for branding, marketing, agglomeration, platforms, etc., etc., etc. Fourth thing is going to be in the field of energy, where we are seeing a paradigm shift. We are clearly knowing and we are clearly seeing that conventional fossil energies are costlier than renewables. So using renewables like solar, biogas, biomass, we will be in a position to have microgrids, mini grids, local grids, which will be able to meet the demand of the rural areas and rural enterprises in a very cost-effective and satisfactory manner. The demand and supply merging together is going to be very good. Fifth area that I personally believe is going to be good is going to be waste to wealth creation. There are many opportunities in waste to wealth creation that we cannot miss our sight on. So with all these, I think there are many others that I'm not today talking about. But I personally think that this period of creative destruction is going to compel many businesses to either go under or many businesses to be redefined. But at the same time, there will be a rise, there will be a tremendous creation of new business models, new business opportunities. Second thing that we will have to keep in mind is to manage with less money, manage with less resources. This is going to become something that we have been angling for. Money will not be available so easily as it has been in the past for asking. It will have to satisfy the basic parameters, the basic premises on which the businesses are built. Cash burning models that we have seen growing will possibly be facing tremendous amount of trouble. Instead of that, rock solid businesses wherein the parameters of profitability, parameters of efficiency are built in will certainly see more acceptance. Lastly, I think that there will be a lot of activity in the rural and decentralized areas. As the decongestion occurs, as the people go over there, there will be a lot of opportunities in that. Everywhere, technology is going to be important. I don't have to say that technology will not be having an opportunity. As a matter of fact, technology is interwoven into all these enterprises. So many such kinds of avenues will open up and they should be certainly tapped. So in nutshell, I am not pessimistic. in nutshell, I'm very optimistic. The moment the things start getting better or more normal, there will be plenty of activities, plenty of opportunities for the people with entrepreneurial bent of mind, people with sound business plans, people who are in a position to follow the true and authentic method of doing business. And obviously, India does not have a dearth of people with that kind of bent of mind. Ecosystem is there, money will be there after some time, but money will be less, and I think we should be seeing a very bright future a couple of years from now in the Indian economic scenario as well as entrepreneurship from India. Thank you very much once again, Aspire Media and EDII, for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dankayach, and it was quite inspiring for those words, and thank you. So let me introduce our next speaker, Mr. Pawan Kumar. So Mr. Pawan Kumar is a co-founder at 3PM Ventures. He is also been partner at F50 Elevate, ex-founder, author, speaker, and investor with 20 years of experience in startups and enterprise across India, Middle East, and USA. Funded multiple companies across USA, UK, and India. They specialize in business strategy, partnership, innovations, and driving change. So, Mr. Pawan Kumar is going to talk about startup success, simple rules to win. So, it's a very interesting topic. So, please listen to him. So, let's welcome Mr. Pawan Kumar. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Dojo. I mean, it's a great pleasure. It's a great pleasure to be in the company of such eminent people. I mean, the speaker just before me is so insightful, inspiring. The professor also said quite a few good words. Just to save on time, I'll quickly jump into the topic. I'm an ex-founder. I did 2 startups in the past. As Dojo said in the beginning, you know, when I started my career after finishing engineering in to find a opening in some of the public sector companies. You know, that's what all our families aspired. And I think the whole trend has changed significantly today. When I look at my own kids, they don't want to look for a job. You know, they want to start their own company, and they have different aspirations, which is the trend of this generation. So very quickly, I mean, I'm connected with the startup ecosystem since I did my first startup in '95 for almost 2.5 decades. And fortunately, I had an opportunity to work in different regions of the world. And also, after I finished my exit from the startups, I went to the corporate world and spent almost 2+ decades in different parts of the world. So I bring a technology plus business background over the last 3 decades. And being associated with the startup ecosystem for 2.5 decades gave me an opportunity to work with many founders, many ideas, I mean, many aspirations. And I mean, based on all these experiences, I wrote a small book called Startup Success and Simple Rules to Win. So I'll just, in the next 10 minutes, I'll try to summarize some of the things which I mentioned in this book and some of my own observations, you know, because 90% of the startups fail, and every failure has its own reasons and has its own stories. And even 75% of the funded companies fail. I mean, this is so, I mean, one way it is disturbing, another way it is so revealing that, you know, failure in this space is extremely high despite having so much of energy, passion, and knowledge, right? If you go to YouTube, there is a whole lot of knowledge in terms of how to be successful in startups, what are the different models you can adopt, how can you follow different successful people. Despite all those things, you know, failures are very high. So let's jump into the reasons. You know, I have summarized 7 reasons which could help early stage startups to be successful, which I call them as rules to win. If you follow these 7 principles, or rather be mindful of these 7 things, maybe it would significantly help you to improve the probability of success of your startup. So let's start with the first one. The first one is start your journey with a companion, right? Most of the time when we get an idea, we jump onto it, we start working on it. But unfortunately, startup journey is not a 6 months or a 1 year story. Typically, if you look into any of the big successful unicorns or even successful startups, which transform to become businesses, they would have spent decent 5+ years. So this is a very strenuous, tough, and rough journey. So it's always good to have a co-founder who complements your skills, right? It could be someone who has similar mindset, maybe your colleague, your friend from childhood, your classmate. It's always good to have a co-founder, maybe two or more. Then your journey will be, at least you have a companion all through the journey. And also, once you have a co-founder on board, it is very important to make sure you have complementary skills, right? If both of you are tech guys and you don't have a sales guy, then it's a challenge. So if you're a tech guy, try to find somebody who is a sales guy. Or if you're a sales guy, find a tech guy. So that way, you help each other, and at least you are able to do 60 to 70% of the work what a startup needs within the organization. Also, make sure right in the beginning you have a clear understanding about roles and responsibilities, and also how do you want to split the equity in the company. So these are the pitfalls, right? People just start off, okay, he's my friend, we'll take care of each other without anything properly formalized, and eventually that turns out to be a challenge as the journey goes along. So the first thing is get a founder, get a co-founder, have a companion for the journey, have clarity in terms of roles, responsibilities, and how do you jointly own the company. So the second thing is socialize your idea and start with a customer. Most of the time we see, like, whenever founders come up with a new idea, they hold the idea very close to their chest. They don't want to reveal, they don't want to talk about it. They feel they're the first guys to get that idea. But unfortunately, that is not true. If you look into any of those successful startups across the world, you would also see 10 other startups which have failed in implementing or pursuing the same idea. So it is always good to socialize your idea, take the feedback, take the opinions, take the insights which you may not be aware, and that way you will avoid a lot of mistakes through the journey. And also start with a customer, whether you are in B2C or B2B. You should always pick the customer for whom you are building a product or a service. And if you start with those customers, trying to take them along with your journey, it helps to a great extent, because identifying persona of a customer and aligning your product or services helps a great deal. And this becomes extremely important in B2B case. I mean, I would advise most of the B2B startups that don't even start on a journey without having an anchor customer who would adapt your product and start working with you to make it more refined, and then you can easily take it and extend it to the market. So the third bit is bootstrap. So this is a misconception in the startup space, right? People make a PPT, they feel their idea is unique, they talk to family and friends. Obviously, no one wants to disappoint you. Everybody says you have a great idea. Then they start chasing investors. I mean, I get almost every week 2 or 3 pitches saying, like, we have this idea, we need funding. Unfortunately, funding world does not happen that way. So when you start on a startup journey, prepare to have enough balance in the bank to support you for 12 to 18 months, or whatever is the period that it takes for your product to come into the market, at least the MVP to come into the market, have few trial customers or few customers who would start using your product. Come with that backing of money. And also, please be mindful, when you start early with no traction, with no revenue model, no business model, no customers, your valuations are peanuts. But if you come with enough money, bootstrapping and all, and you have some traction, you have some success, then your valuation goes up, then you are on a better terms. And also you will attract more quality investors. Quality investors and good funds are investing in ideas which have traction, which have a model which they believe can work. So be prepared to bootstrap for a while, and that would avoid all the complexity and tensions in startup journey. The fourth bit is business means revenue and profits. Eventually, startup may start off by giving some freebies, freemium models and all that. Eventually, For your startup to mature into a successful business, to scale into a successful business, you should have the right business models and revenue models that can bring money into the company, and also the input or the income should be more than the expense. That is, you would become profitable. So if you don't have these things in the back of your mind when you are building your product or when you are building your business models, then it is a futile exercise. I mean, most of the time founders think that, okay, let me do something, release the product free into the market. Today, me and two co-founders and an intern, we are able to build something. Let's create a traction and then start charging. Unfortunately, these things will not work in every product or service. So it is always important to be mindful of what is that future look like, what is that business model look like, right? You can start off with freemium, but at the same time, you can also have priced products there. Maybe entry level could be premium, but eventually it should lead into revenue and profitable business models. Because be aware, as your company starts growing, your expenses start growing, and if you're not able to generate these revenues to sustain those operations and expenses, that means your startup is not going to survive for long, right? So the fifth thing is getting the priorities right. So most of the times we feel, or I find that startups are in a rush to do something and prove something. There is no plan in place. There is no proper alignment within the teams, within the co-founders and all. They get all the priorities wrong. So just to give you an example, like somebody sees a bit of attraction and they have a couple of lakhs in the bank, they just go and spend it on marketing, which is not at all needed, right? So these are the things, getting the priorities wrong burns out cash, burns out your energies, and you will have rude feedbacks and reactions from the markets, and eventually startups tend to vanish because they never got their priorities right. The sixth thing is make noise. So most of the time, I find that the founders feel marketing their products or services is a very specialized area, and they always want to hire professionals or bring some great CMOs on board, and then they end up burning a lot of money either on Google ads or Facebook ads or LinkedIn, wherever it is. They end up paying a lot of money, having a manpower or an agency which is charging them a bomb, and then it starts putting a lot of strain on the financials, or your cost of acquisitions go up, or the cost of retention goes up. So the best people to start and talk a startup story is the founders. And there are so many avenues to talk about your story and gain that traction by the founders themselves. Just to give you an example, all social networks, LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, Twitter posts, all these come free, and no one really looks into ads on these platforms. But if a founder comes and talks his story, or if a company comes and talks about how they are bringing innovation to the market, these are the stories most of us would like to read, because majority of the professionals always have entrepreneurship at the back of their mind. They're always looking for such great stories, and they would support such great stories which are coming from the founders themselves. So couple of ways you can make noise is through social networks, sharing your stories, your blogs, attending events, and conducting meetups to promote your products, your services. And then eventually, simple, donning a t-shirt with your brand and moving around either at the events or, in a social gathering, that itself gains a lot of attention. So don't think that talking about your success, talking about your story is a professional effort. It is not. It is all about making noise. And the last bit is use mentors and investors, right? Many startups get some advisors, mentors, but eventually once they start having testing or having some success, they start ignoring these mentors. They feel that these guys are asking us tough questions. These guys keep questioning our belief, our assumptions, and all. So they try to shy away. So it is always important to get mentors on board early in your journey, so that they give you the right feedback, the right opinion. They are not emotionally connected with the idea as you are. So it is always good to have mentors on board who bring the knowledge of the space, the expertise of the space, and also the network, right? Mentors will come with great networks, and they would be able to introduce you to their network and known companies for your products and services. And just like the investors choose you, you also need to choose investors. This is very important for early stage startups, because if you get the wrong investor on board, you will be spending a lot of time trying to convince him that his money is safe or his money is going to multiply. On the contrary, if you get the right investor who comes with some expertise, some knowledge, some connections, or from the industry, then you have the right guy on board. And whenever you have an investor or a mentor, make sure to involve them as part of your team. I mean, they are not different from you, but they are definitely part of your team. So I stop here. I just want to summarize what I just said. These things are extremely important for early stage startups. When I talk about startups, I'm talking about every entrepreneur journey. It could be SME, it could be small enterprise, micro enterprise, anything, right? Every company which survives as Mr. Dangai just said, right? Every company today, small or big, is surviving COVID-19 times. And even if whether you like it or not, all of us are donning the entrepreneurial hat. I'm part of a Silicon Valley accelerator, and overnight all our model is gone for a toss. And we are also now become entrepreneurs once again. We are trying to find new models to survive in this new normal and new this global scenario. So these rules apply to everyone, and the 7 rules which I spoke about are: start with a companion, find a co-founder, socialize your idea just to shorten the journey of success. Third thing, come with a bit of bootstrapping, have enough money in the bank to avoid frustrations. And business means revenue and profits. There will not be too many WhatsApp which would go and become global and get acquired. There will be very, very, very few. So take the other companies as a yardstick and come with a idea at the back of your mind that you should generate revenues and profits. And the fifth bit is get the priorities right. And the sixth one is make noise, talk about your idea, socialize your idea. And the final thing is use mentors and investors as part of your team. It's a great opportunity. I thank EDII and Dojo for giving me this opportunity. I mean, I'll be happy to connect directly with any of you, all of you, and help you in your entrepreneur journey in whatever form I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pawan Kumar. It was indeed a very informative session, and probably most of the startups who have been looking at how to find an investor, probably this is a good piece of advice. So thank you, Mr. Pawan, once again. So let me introduce Mr. Pawan, Mr. Ravi Ranjan, as our next speaker. He is an entrepreneurship evangelist, a startup expert, a 2-time TEDx speaker, and an alumni of the International Visitor Leadership Program, a premier professional exchange program by the US government, Department of States. Ravi has over 10 years of experience helping startups, entrepreneurs, and government across India to solve problems using entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. He is a regular speaker at the top technology and management institutes in India, such as IIT, IIM, NIT, XLRI, Manipal, MIT, along with being a regular speaker and a mentor at startup events across India. His expertise lies across sectors such as entrepreneurship, angel investment, venture capital, early stage ventures, government relations, global startup ecosystem, business incubator, operations, events, and media. A connector, mentor, keen observer of the ever-shifting and metamorphosizing startup ecosystem, society, business, and government space. Ravi has spotted social disruptions and changes while evaluating risk and economic rewards for enterprises. So, Mr. Ravi is going to talk today on the topic Entrepreneurship per Mile, decoding entrepreneurship from the bylines of Bharat. So, it's a great topic. Let's welcome Mr. Ravi Ranjan. Over to you, Ravi.
Thanks a lot, Dojo. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, or I think good evening. Good evening, everyone. Last time I was at EDII campus in Ahmedabad. This was early this year. So I'm a mentor on board for Jagriti Yatra, which is a very interesting train journey, one of the longest in the world, where we travel around 15 days across India to promote entrepreneurship. I'm a mentor. I spent a couple of days on the train. I came to EDI campus, unfortunately, due to extreme cold, I was not able to speak. So I had to cancel my talk at the EDI campus, but I'm really glad that I'm again here today speaking at a wonderful event. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Dojo Jose to invite me for this event. Professor Satyacharya, Mr. Dangayach, Mr. Pawan Kumar. I have my old friend, Mr. Priyadeep Sinha. And once again, thank you so much, EDI, for giving this opportunity to all of us. My name is Ravi Ranjan. I have 15 minutes, so I would try and cover things pretty quickly. If I go very fast, let me know. I'll try and slow down. I have spent last 10 plus years working with startups and entrepreneurs from across the country, but it was not always like that. So I'm going to share a couple of stories. I have been a journalist in the past, and I was a radio jockey as well, so I love telling stories. I was born in a very small village in Jharkhand, so small that you cannot find it on map. And when I was growing up, my village was the highest Naxal-affected area in the country. So I have grown up with seeing all the challenges, which includes violence, terrorism, all sort of things. So I used to ask a question myself every single day: can I do something in my lifetime to contribute towards changing my place where I live and the world at a larger landscape? The answer was very difficult. There was no mentor at that time to support me. I studied from a government school, no access to internet, because the first time I saw internet, I think that was in college first year. Studied from a government school, no access to English-speaking people. So it was very challenging. And I figured out that if I become a journalist, I would be able to solve some of these problems. So I did that. I became a journalist, and then I realized that I would actually not be able to contribute a lot, because media is very complicated. The way it looks outside is very different inside. So I'm very fortunate that I got a chance to work with the amazing Indian entrepreneurs for the last 10 years. I started being part of this ecosystem way back in 2010. And since then, I have worked with thousands of entrepreneurs across the country. Interestingly, when I was starting my career, the Indian ecosystem was also starting. So lot of interesting things have happened. So I'm going to share some of these interesting stories with all of you today. I have a quick presentation. I'll try and share with all of you. But before I do that, when I was contacted by Dojo, I was supposed to speak about something which the audience would be able to connect to. And I thought that what can be better than talking about the real entrepreneurship which happens in Bharat. So if you look at India, it's a continent trapped within a country. It's so big, it's so huge, so many states who are bigger than some of the biggest countries in the world. So we cannot restrict entrepreneurship to the Bangalore and the Delhi NCR and the Mumbai of India. We need to go to Ranchi, Siliguri, we need to go to Nagaland, we need to go to Kohima, we need to go to Kashmir, we need to go to Coimbatore. And that's what I'm going to talk to all of you about. I have had an opportunity to travel across the country, work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I have, in the last 5 years, spoken to more than 150,000, which is 1.5 lakh aspiring entrepreneurs and 6,000 teachers. So I'm going to share all those stories. I have a very quick presentation, which I'll be sharing with all of you. Allow me a second. Okay. How can I, Rahil, how can I share my deck, which is open on the desktop?
So you have, Rahil, you can help? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the third icon, right? Share your screen. You can click on that and share your entire screen, and you can open your presentation.
Sure. Okay, let me see. Is my screen visible now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. So before I go that, I would like to understand from Dojo. Dojo, do we have some students with us today as well? And young people? Hello? Hi, Dojo.
You have few of them. We have few of them. Yep.
Yeah, wonderful. So I wanted to touch upon this particular slide. I wanted to touch upon this very, very interesting slide here. I'm sure a lot of you would know, and people who do not know, this is called the demographic dividend. Countries like Japan, Italy, Korea, Spain, they have had their fair share of demographic dividend. India has entered into a demographic dividend from 2018 to 2052. What does it mean? 2055. What does it mean? Demographic dividend is a phase where a particular country has highest number of young people, and the dependent population goes very, very low.
కనుక్కో ఎవరు చేశారు కరెక్ట్ కాదు ఎవరో వేసారు అది
Hello.
ఆన్లైన్
Pankaj, if you could keep your mic on mute.
ఏమని ఏమని
Rahil, can you keep Mr. Pawan mic on mute?
మరి పాత సెమిస్టర్లో ఎట్లా
He needs to refresh.
I'll pause
ఓన్లీ
for a
లాస్ట్
minute.
సెమిస్టర్
I'll just pause for a minute. I'll ask Mr. Pawan to put his mic.
ఎట్లా ఉంది ఆయన మాట్లాడండి
Sorry about that.
నేను ఎంతసేపు మాట్లాడా 10 minutes లో ఖతం చేశాను
Yeah, then you can go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Pawan, can you mute your mic, please?
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. To all the audience, these are some basic technical glitch which we face sometime, but that's all right.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Absolutely no issues. Moving on. So India has entered the demographic dividend, and what it means, we have a lot of young people, especially for the next 30 or so years. Now, we need to take up this opportunity, and we need to take the best advantage of it. And how can we do that? I think the best of that is entrepreneurship. When we promote a lot of entrepreneurship, we would be also able to promote job creation. We would be able to promote wealth creation. And this would happen when we democratize entrepreneurship to go to the bylanes of India. As I mentioned, as of now, if you look at the Indian ecosystem, in terms of startup ecosystem, we have the biggest companies coming in from Bangalore and Delhi and Mumbai. While this is very good, we also need to take this to the small villages and small towns across the country. Now, let me share a couple of very interesting stories. When I say that we need to encourage entrepreneurship in the bylanes of Bharat, we also need to understand the very important and fundamental challenge which we have. We have a lot of traditional companies running in the country. These, we also know them as businesses. Now, suddenly, why people have started talking about startups? I mean, startups are also businesses. They build a solution, make money, employ people. Why they are called startup and not business? That's a fundamental question, which I'll try and answer. Let's see. So we have a company here called Reliance Communication, launched their CDMA services in December 2002 with a 500 rupees handset and free incoming calls. They then launched their GSM service in 2007, and by 2010, they were one of the largest telecommunication company in the country with 100 million subscribers. But in 2017, they discontinued their voice services. And then in 2019, Reliance had to file for bankruptcy. Moving on to a similar company in almost the same domain known as Jio. Now, they launched in September 2016 with free voice calls and cheap 4G data plans. And by 2020, they have 376 million subscribers. In 3 years, it has become India's largest and world's second largest telecom operator. Interestingly, during the lockdown, when a lot of businesses are struggling to survive, Jio has been able to raise $22.2 billion. Now, what is the connection between the definition of startup and business? Now, if you look at Jio, while this is part of the larger, business behemoth Reliance, Jio has always been working like a startup. Interestingly, in the last 4 years, Jio has acquired startups worth $3 billion. Some of the best platforms from the country and across, Jio has acquired, and they still operate like a startup. That's what makes a huge difference. The next startup is called Vedantu. It started as a offline test prep company, but in 2014 they moved to an online segment, and by 2020 they have 15 million plus users. In 2020 they raised $6.8 million, and interestingly, Vedantu has been identified as a soonicorn, which means that they're going to be a unicorn company very, very soon. I also want to share about two very interesting companies. I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in space science. Started in 1960, Boeing is one of the biggest service provider to NASA. They charge $4.6 billion to send 6 operational flights to the ISS, International Space Station. They also charge $90 million per astronaut per flight. I'm just trying to explain you how using innovation, how using a startup mindset, you can disrupt any segment. SpaceX started in 2002 with almost no space science background. NASA today paid $3.1 billion for 6 more flights to ISS. NASA also pays a reduced $55 million per astronaut per flight. Also, SpaceX has become the first startup in history to launch 2 rockets and have them land within 48 hours. Interestingly, one of their rocket called Falcon Heavy is the most powerful commercial rocket in the world to ever be launched. Now, if you look at startup, today startups are not merely software companies or applications on your mobile phone. Startups have emerged as a very, very large contributor to the economic growth. And for a country like India and Bharat, we need to promote entrepreneurship at the grassroots level. I would like to congratulate EDII to have, they have taken up this initiative and they are promoting entrepreneurship education. However, we need to come together and take it to the next level. All the participants who have joined us today on the seminar, some of you might be students, some of you might be entrepreneurs, some of you might be SME owners. We all need to come together to be able to bring this change. Let me share this very quick story. Skype, sorry. Hello? All right, there was some audio background. Okay. Now, Skype is a very small startup. It started in Estonia. Estonia is a very cold country. The temperature always remains minus 20, minus 30, which means agriculture is a challenge. Large industries are not in Estonia. Skype started as a small company, and today the founders and early members of Skype have started something called Skype Mafia, where they have founded some of the best companies from the Nordic region. Gojek is another example. It's a small company from Indonesia. When they started, the idea was to elevate people from poverty and give opportunities to people in Indonesia. Today, more than 1 million people have been impacted by Gojek, and interestingly, more than 50,000 disabled people use Gojek to get their livelihood. The next company is Flipkart. I'm sure all of you understand. Flipkart is not just a startup or a business or a large company which raised a lot of money. Flipkart also inspired millions of Indians to take the risk to build a startup. And the next company which I want to talk about is Google. Google again started as a very small startup. In the early days of Google, they went to Yahoo with an acquisition request, but Yahoo said that it's not interesting for us. Today, Google has impacted billions of people across the world because they used innovation in every single thing which they do. Moving on to the next one, I wanted to very quickly touch upon what's happening in India and Bharat. If you look at this, this is the landscape of the tech startup ecosystem in India by NASSCOM, where we have more than 8,900 companies. But these are only tech companies. If we include non-tech companies, we have close to 50,000 startups in India. And in 2019, all these companies raised $14.5 billion, which is a phenomenal number. But the most important contribution these companies are doing is that by 2025, these companies are going to create 5 million jobs. That is amazing. The next segment I want to talk about is very quickly, I'm sure a lot of people are concerned that during COVID-19, businesses are getting hit. It's going to be very challenging. I want to share some very interesting data points with you. It's not the first time that an unprecedented scenario like COVID has hit our world. We have seen similar problems in the 1990-91 where the dot-com bubble busted. March 21, 2001 to November 2001, the NASDAQ crashed. And then we had a very, very bad financial meltdown for almost 18 months. However, if you look at this interesting data point here, more than 25%, which is 9 out of 36 unicorns, they were born during these 2 years of global recession. For all the participants who might not be aware about Unicorn, Unicorn is a private limited company which is valued at $1 billion or above. Interestingly, India now has 3 Decacorn. A Decacorn is a company which is valued at $10 billion or above. Baiju recently became a Decacorn. If you look at the global data point, more than 72 unicorns were born during the same global financial meltdown. I would like to come back again very quickly on this particular slide. If you look here, China has 800,000 startups. US has 500,000 startups. India, 50,000. What does it mean? It means that we have just started working in the field of entrepreneurship for our country. We need to take this opportunity. All of you and me, all of us together, we need to contribute to this. And interesting data point, if you look here, the number of startups from tier 2 and tier 3 cities have grown with more than 300% growth rate since 2016. And also, angel investors have grown from 400 to 450%. My timer told me that I have one last minute left. So I would like to go very quickly and talk about this one last slide. When we talk about innovation, the first thing which we ask ourselves, and we ask our students ask their teachers, how do I bring innovation to my day-to-day life? So the answer can be complicated, but I will try and make it simple. Innovation is solving a very, very big problem with a very simple approach. I'm going to share 4 very interesting examples. There's a company called Zipline, which deliver blood and essential medical supply using drones across Africa. They have saved thousands of lives in Africa. We have a company called Husk Power. It's a very interesting company from Bihar. They make electricity from rice husk, and they distribute electricity to villages where people have not seen electricity before. My Lab is a very interesting Indian company which became the first company in India to help develop the first COVID-19 testing kit. From March 2019, where we had 1 lab in India, today we have 975 COVID labs across the country. And for all the young people, you will be glad to know that esports have now become a very, very popular sport across the world, and people are making millions of dollars, by playing esports. I can keep on going, but because we do not have a lot of time, I would like to quickly, bring you here. Once again, Dojo, EDII, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Ravi Ranjan, and I would like to leave you with one thought. I grew up in a very small village with so many challenges, let me just give me 1 second. Let me just come back to the slide. I hope my video is visible now. All right. So I would like to leave all of you with one last thought. When I was growing up, I saw so many challenges, studied from very, very basic school with no access to internet. In the last 10 years, I have been able to help thousands of entrepreneurs. I have trained 1.5 lakh students. I have trained 6 lakh teachers. Today, I work with some of the biggest state government in the country to advise them on policy on how to support startup ecosystem. I work with international government. If a person like me, with almost no access to knowledge, can do this, I'm sure all of you brilliant people can do so much better than that. And I'm sure India would be a land of unicorns very, very soon. And we would then talk about the real entrepreneurship from Bharat, which would go beyond Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, and we'll see companies coming up from small villages across the country. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed. I enjoyed talking to you. Look forward to a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. It was quite a electrifying session, then though it was only for 15 minutes. Thank you very much, and very informative. So quite inspiring though, that come from where you were coming from, a remote village, and you have helped so many entrepreneurs in the country. It's not a small thing. There's a lot of passion in it. Very much for we are quite humbled and honored to have you today, along with other eminent speakers, and thank you very much for the session. So going on, let me introduce our next speaker, Mr. Priyadeep Sinha. So Mr. Priyadeep is a Vice President of Global Alliance of Mass Entrepreneurship. It's called GAME, not GAME as in GAME, it's got a full stop in between as a short form. So Global Alliance of Mass Entrepreneurship India. Pradeep enjoy solving problems. He spent almost all his time trying to understand the biggest problems humanity and humans face today, and the different possible ways of solving them. Education, employability, entrepreneurship, and empowerment of youth and children are the 4 E's that matter the most to Pradeep. Pradeep work on creating and providing the right ecosystem where millions of youth are able to convert from being job seekers to job creators, entrepreneurs across the country. Prior to this, he has been an entrepreneur for over 8 years, having founded GAN Lab and Kiddovators, and which enabled over 140,000 school-going children to experience the joy of learning 21st century skills such as creativity, critical thinking, and complex problem solving. So Pradeep has previously worked as a research scholar at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, UK. He is a TEDx speaker and also have spoken about education across various forums in India, USA, and Brazil. He's got a mechanical engineering from Manipal University. So Mr. Pradeep is going to talk on the topic identifying growth opportunities during challenging times. So let's welcome Mr. Pradeep. Over to you, Mr. Pradeep.
Thank you so much, Dojo, and to EDII and Aspire Media. This is a fantastic opportunity. I think I'm quite honored to be in this august company of such experts, and I'm like, of course, the youngest of the lot by a mile. So I think it is an honor for me to listen to them, and I'll try to spend the next a few minutes to talk about my journey as an entrepreneur, and then relate that to how do you deal with entrepreneurship in challenging times, right? So as a child, I mean, just like Ravi, I spent most of my childhood in Bihar, and then what became Jharkhand eventually, and I think it was entrepreneurship was, I didn't know the term entrepreneur, but entrepreneurship was something that always excited me, right? I remember as a child thinking about starting something that looked like Reliance Fresh at some point of time. So thinking about entrepreneurship throughout my life, when I reached Manipal, where I did my undergraduate, an opportunity came my way to become an entrepreneur, and I lashed onto that when I was in the final year. This is 2010, and that's when I started my company, which is called Kidovators, and before that it was called Gyan Lab. I think entrepreneurship to me is something very personal, and I did not want to become an entrepreneur for the sake of becoming an entrepreneur. It was always about trying to find an opportunity from a problem, and trying to see how do you solve it, right? And I think that was the journey that I wanted to take. In my schooling itself, I realized that learning happens in a very unidimensional manner in school, and I wanted to be able to solve that in a certain way, which is where we created Kilovators. And the premise was that if there are certain skills like creativity and critical thinking are going to be important for children to learn as they get into this sort of new VUCA world. The current system is not getting them that education, right? And which is where the idea for my startup came up, and we did that for about 8 years. We went from educating parents and children and schools about the merits of such kind of skills, and from there taking it to about 144,000 children. This is roughly across 460 schools, and spread across 22 states, right? Unfortunately, a lot of things did not work out. For example, our model wasn't built to sustain over a longer period of time. Wasn't designed for profitability, and at the right time I realized that it's not going anywhere, and which is why I shut it down in last year. This is about March 2019, and which is why when I got this amazing opportunity to join this organization called GAME, which is the Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship. And GAME is an alliance which focuses on the mass entrepreneur or the job creating entrepreneur space. It is our sort of deep belief that job creation is a very large problem for a country like India today, given the sort of demography that we have. And you need to enable lots of tiny, micro, small businesses to to the right resources and in the right direction in order for them to create like jobs across the country. You would be surprised to know that India has over 60 million small and micro businesses, and it's a massive number, right? And so GAME is an alliance which works with different stakeholders in this space. At GAME, my job essentially is trying to seed an entrepreneurship ecosystem in the states of Punjab and in Meghalaya, which are very, very diverse places, which is not completely urban, right? And when I say mass entrepreneur, we are talking about everybody who's running a business today, right? So right from your local bakery guy to somebody who's running a small food processing unit, all of them in our view and in our understanding, as long as they're employing people, is a mass entrepreneur, right? And when the COVID crisis hit, almost every entrepreneur went through a massive disruption, right? There was disruption in terms of the business that is there. There was disruption in terms of the forward and the backward linkages that they had. Supply chain was completely disrupted, and it happened at a magnitude which usually we have not seen so far, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, and I think I'm talking primarily about the individual entrepreneur in this case and not the overall ecosystem at large, right? For an individual entrepreneur, it can get intimidating, especially if you're a small business, especially if you are in a situation where you have, let's say, a cash runway for 15 days or 30 days. It is extremely daunting and challenging, and no matter what anyone says, it's not going to get easier, right? So I think I do completely understand that. But having said that, we during this journey over the last 3-4 months, I was personally able to see a lot of entrepreneurs do specific things which helped them cover up the crisis, right? And it actually included 4 very simple things. And the first one was awareness. These entrepreneurs were completely aware. I know of an entrepreneur in the northeast, in the state of Nagaland, who the moment she saw that she used to manufacture these soaps, the moment she saw that there's an opportunity to move to sanitizers, she just moved right away. I mean, the larger companies took time to move there, right? She being a small entrepreneur, a small business, was able to like take that journey in less than 3 days time, and get herself to start manufacturing and like selling in the local market there, right? So awareness is super important. The second thing that I want to cover, I'll cover them in detail, separately, is the seeking mentorship and support from people who can help you. The third is collaboration. You're, as an entrepreneur, you're never alone. There are like thousands and millions of entrepreneurs around you, and being able to recognize and being able to work together is an important skill. And the fourth one is that that there is an opportunity in every challenge. Every problem leads to an opportunity, and that's what as entrepreneurs we are most adept at doing. And I think this is also something that I saw entrepreneurs do. So going to the first element of awareness, and these are all real cases. During this time, I saw businesses who went on completely cash saving mode, right? And there were businesses who did not know what to do, and because their supply chain was completely disrupted. Yet there were businesses who were quickly able to turn things around and do other things that they normally did. There were businesses who optimized cash spending. They did not stop spending money. They knew that they had to spend money to keep the business running. No business runs without spending money. But they optimized it, focused on the core, focused on the most important, essential top 2, 3, 5 items, right, that they sold. And similarly in services, and they just kept hitting hard at it and made sure that that their business kept running. Right from the grocery store that next to my house, they excelled in getting daily essentials every day, no matter what happened. And I spoke to the shopkeeper, and he was able to source this from 6 or 7 different suppliers. It was not their one regular supplier who supplied to them. Can you imagine that, right? So because he ensured that he was able to sustain his business over a longer period of time. That awareness, and frugality does not mean that you stop spending money. It is optimized spending of money, and I think that's something a lot of times we entrepreneurs miss, and there are other entrepreneurs who do it really well. So it's an important element to remember in such challenging times. The second is mentorship, and I don't think I've been fortunate to have exceptional mentors in my journey as an entrepreneur who and at every stage they were always available to sort of brainstorm, be my sounding board. And every entrepreneur needs one. It could be somebody in your family, it could be somebody in your vicinity, it could be somebody you have known in your let's say work life, etc., right? But reaching out to such people, asking the right questions, and getting them to sort of tell you and advise you and listening to them. I think these are important things to do in challenging times, because as entrepreneurs we are very unidirectional. We are like horses, just running as fast as we can, and sometimes we miss things that are on the sides, and I think advisors and mentors bring that into purview. The third element, which is superbly critical and a lot of times we miss, is collaboration between entrepreneurs. And in challenging times like this, if you collect together, if there are there's a community of 100 entrepreneurs, it's much more powerful than each of those individual entrepreneurs, right? And I think being able to collectively work, being able to sort of collectively help each other out is an incredible thing to be able to do. I have been very fortunate to see the whole SHG, the self-help group movement, work exceptionally well in the state of Jharkhand when I was in school, and it showed the power of collective enterprises, and how women were able to form enterprises in a way where they supported each other out, right? And they were all together in this. And I think this is something that all entrepreneurs need to do, no matter the size of business you're running, no matter the kind of business you're running. As long as you have entrepreneurs around you who are your friends and who are able to guide you and be more sort of collaborative with you, you have a path out. And I think in challenging times like this, it's an important thing to remember. And the fourth one is just being open, looking around you. Where is the next opportunity? I mean, we have heard numerous stories of businesses which took the sort of the short-term opportunity on getting to sanitizers and the PPE kits, and from a country that needed to export PPE kits from China and other countries, we're now producing 5 lakh kits per day. And that's all. It's all entrepreneurs in this country. They're the ones who are doing this, right? So I think there is enormous opportunity in any crisis. people have identified the short-term ones, but in the long term, they're going to be a lot more. As entrepreneur, you'll have to be willing to take that little risk, and you'll have to be willing to, look for those right opportunities and just go for it, right? And nobody is going to we are not going to go back to our regular normal, right? We're going to go to a new normal. And I think that's again a word that's beaten to the bush, but it is true. Life is going to change, incredibly, right, for us. And I think as entrepreneurs, being able to identify that early, taking that early bet into something that we really believe in is important. And in such a challenging time, it is definitely even more important, right? And so I think those covered the 4 points that I want to talk about. I wouldn't take too much of your time. In conclusion, I mean, I think this my boss at Game, Mr. Ravi Venkatesan, who also used to be the chairman of Microsoft and Bank of Baroda, said something very interesting in one of the online sessions that I was attending, and I'd like to leave you with that as well. And he said that, and this is a quote that he mentioned, that if not now, when? If not you, who? Right? And I think I found it very profound, and I thought I'll leave you with that. That as entrepreneurs, we have to take the best of opportunities. We have to make the most of situations that we have, and all the very best to all of you. I think once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. I'm always reachable if anyone wants to talk. And lovely being in this forum. Thank you so much, Dojo. Thank you, EDII, and thank you, Aspire Media.
Thanks a lot, Pradeep. It was a wonderful session, though. I mean, I like your first word. I'm the youngest in the entire speaking slot. It's a good thought, but as you rightly know, entrepreneurship doesn't have an age. But your advices coming from a younger generation is something a bliss to see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I would like to, so Professor Satya couldn't complete his session initially. So I would like to invite him once again to conclude today's session with his, topic. Yeah, please.
Great. I think it's nice to listen to all those thought process from Nagat Sahab talking about all those different opportunities that people can think at this point of time, to the 7 basic tips that has been given by Pawanji, and Raviranjan talked about all these opportunities that how the small companies can grow, and Pradeep talks about from his heart that how the small entrepreneurs across India is doing. So just to summarize some of my thought process, I feel entrepreneurship is all about learning. It's a learning that every day that we need to learn what is happening and how we try to work on that. It's a time period when we look into the business which are purely customer funded business. I think there's a lot more discussion just to think about that, how we can get the money from the customer to continue my business. I believe there is a very strong relationship between entrepreneur and the type of problem they're trying to solve. So we need to try to question yourself that why I want to solve this question, and why I can do it, and why I can do it better than the rest of the people. So I think that answer every entrepreneurship should need to provide, that why I think looking at this opportunity, why I'll be the one who can solve it in a substantial better way, that need to have a self introspection at most of the time. So talked about creative destruction. Yes, that is very essential. Whether you are doing very good or doing very bad, destroy your existing business and look for newer opportunity. That's the best thing can happen at this point of time. What I mean by destruction means that if it is doing very good, hand it over to somebody else and try and look for newer opportunity. And that's all about the spirit of an entrepreneur. And innovation is the only budge which is required. Whether you can adapt to the new technologies and try to create, or you have a technology, I think that's a two different way, which is very essential at this point of time. So I think as an Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, we believe that entrepreneurs we can train, and with this type of support and with that type of handholding and the type of knowledge and content we are creating, we can certainly try to help this country to create more entrepreneurs at this point of time. I think that's all from my side. We can take some more questions if the people are having and can summarize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Satya. It was a good concluding session and your thoughts. And Entrepreneurship Institute EDI always stood for entrepreneurs in the country, and still doing lot of wonderful jobs to bring in the best out of the entrepreneurs in the country. Thank you very much. So with this, we are ending today's session. So there are a lot of requests on asking contacts from the speakers is going on. So probably after the session, if you have some time to spend at the launch, you'll be able to interact with them. But before concluding the session, I would like to, as usual, we would like to get a piece of advice from every speaker today to the benefit of the audience. So I would like to start with Mr. Dankaj, if you are able to hear me, or Professor Satya, you can give a. Are you okay? Oh, I think yes. So, Mr. Dankaj, for the benefit of everyone, I would like to request you to give an advice to the entrepreneurs who are here based on today's topic. What is the best advice you can give, keeping the present situation?
My simple observation is that there are entrepreneurship opportunities right from villages on to the cities to the international scenario. So I would say that keep your eyes open. Hello.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pawan, can you keep your mic muted, please? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Dankaj.
Yeah, we have to think of opportunities, right? Say from villages on to towns to cities and international scenario. There are plenty of such opportunities right now, and they will be there. And I believe that we should be India centric in seeking, evaluating, and exploiting the opportunities.
All right, that's a wonderful advice. I think opportunities are something that everyone should be on the lookout, and definitely there are opportunities, especially after this post-COVID. Professor Satya, I would like to invite you to give a word on your advice. I think your mic is on mute. The mic is on mute on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. The first point is that everybody need to try to solve problem. I think we have discussed a lot. I says why you are trying to solve this problem. What is your connection with the problem? Need to be understood properly. Second point, quality is the only thing that in the long run you are going to sustain. And third point, which I believe is required, is called agility. Agility is about how you're going to adapt yourself to the new changes that is taking place in the marketplace. So if you're doing all those three things, certainly you are going to get the success over a period of time. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Satya. Mr. Pawan Kumar, are you able to hear us? Yes, you're there. Good. A piece of advice from you to the entrepreneurs who are here today.
Is it my turn, Dojo?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, entrepreneurship today has immense opportunities, limitless. It just left to our imagination. Every product can be disrupted, every service can be disrupted, every large organization which is existing today is not going to survive next decade. So it's a huge opportunity. However, come prepared, well prepared in every aspect, and come with the expectation that the road is going to be rough, challenging, and bold, and only those who have the strength will survive. It is not an easy road, but definitely the destinations are immense and exciting. So come prepared and enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pawan. That was a good advice, though. Mr. Ravi Ranjan, your turn. If you could give a word to the audience today, would be great.
Certainly. So for all the young people who might still be a student or just graduated, I think don't look at startup as one more hobby or activity. Startup is a real time commitment. It takes at least 7 to 10 years to build a real venture where you can actually expect financial rewards. So go in for a long term. Don't come unprepared. Number two, for all the people who are already working, if you have a small business, try and see how you can use technology and digitization to take your business to the next level. You should not be waiting for a government agency to come and support you. As an entrepreneur, you need to look for opportunities and solve them. And as the fellow speakers mentioned, you have so many opportunities in front of you. Investors are ready with millions of dollars to give to the right startup. It's just that you need to be that one startup who can raise capital, solve problems, contribute to the nation building. That's what I want to leave all of you.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Opportunities are plenty, and right, an early bird gets the worm. Thank you. So, Mr. Pradeep, the last word from you.
Thank you so much. I think just one that like if you don't try, you will never know. So it's hard to like go to a later life and then regret not doing something. So if you really feel the urge to become an entrepreneur, just become one. And I think people have an enormous capability of to figure things out, and we are built in that way. So I think we should just take opportunities. That's all.
Brilliant. So thank you once again. Thank you for your wonderful sessions. Thank you, Mr. Dangayach, Professor Satya, Mr. Pawan Kumar, Mr. Ravi Ranjan, and Mr. Priyadeep Sinha. Thanks a lot for your time, your valuable time, and thank you for all the attendees who have been in from the beginning till now. Sincere thanks, and it's a great pleasure to see that people are still allowed to hear and then want to learn more about entrepreneurship and change. Take the best out of the present scenario. So thank you once again. Stay tuned. We are coming with a lot of other interesting sessions. So thank you all once again. Thank you, EDI. Thank you, EDI Ahmedabad. Thank you to kindly convey my sincere regards to Dr. Sunil Shukla. Thank you, Professor Satya, once again. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So if any one of you would like to, exchange any kind of your views or any clarifications or any suggestions or any you want to discuss anything with the speakers, please move on to our social launch. Please be there, and if you could spend some time, it will be great. It will be a great support to you and your ventures that you're going to take it. I could see that there's someone who wants to start a business, asking, I'm willing to start a business. I need some funding. What should I do? So please come to the social launch, mix up with the speakers, and get the best out of meeting them. So thank you all once again. Have a wonderful evening.